Dr. Ota Lutz is going to share with us the incredible resources that NASA and JPL has to offer educators. I'm not going to spend too much time with the introduction. I want to let Dr. Lutz share all these incredible resources with you. Thank you, Dr. Lutz, for joining us today.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate the introduction. And hello, everyone. So happy to be with you this afternoon. As Jerry said, I work at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and I work in the education office. And my job is as the manager of the K through 12 education program for JPL. If you're not familiar with JPL, we're one of the 10 NASA centers. And we are just in the foothills up above the Rose Bowl. So this is what we look like on a clear day. And my building is one of those tall ones that you can see kind of there in the foreground. And if you're not familiar with what we do, I wanted to kind of take you quickly over to a video here that will show you a few things that we do. So this is our mission control session, and I'm kind of doing a voiceover. I'm taking it. You probably can't hear the audio, which you don't really need to hear. We explore the solar system using robots, and so we employ all sorts of people in all sorts of jobs, and basically we use these cool robots to go find out how the solar system was formed, and indeed how our Earth was formed. And then we also are monitoring Earth from space. So we build spacecraft, we monitor from space, we collect the data, we analyze the data, and we learn a whole lot more about our solar system than we've ever known before. Probably the science textbooks have changed from the time that all of us were in school as a result of the work that we do at JPL. So what we do in the education office is try to transfer, let's see, don't want to run that again. We try to transfer the stuff that this is not cooperating. Here we go. We try to go ahead and we try to translate the stuff that we do at JPL into lessons for the classroom. So you've probably heard of some of our more famous missions. Here we have the Perseverance rover on the right side, and its little friend called the Ingenuity helicopter on the left. On the left is an animation of the Ingenuity flight, but on the right, this is actually a selfie taken by the Perseverance rover on Mars. And in the background here, you can see that there is the little tiny helicopter that went with it. This is the first time that we were able to fly on another planet. So it's kind of a Wright brothers moment. And we figured we'd be lucky to get like 5 flights out of this little helicopter. Turns out it's still flying. We've flown dozens of flights, and now we're using it to scout locations for the rover to go. And we're basically looking for evidence of past life. We know that there was water on Mars, and we wonder, gosh, if there was water, maybe there was past life. And we're also learning just a whole lot about the geology of Mars. We think Mars and Earth were quite similar when they were formed. And of course, now they're quite different. So what happened there? That's kind of a big question. As I mentioned, we study Earth. We have this whole gob of spacecraft that are orbiting Earth and studying everything from the oceans to the land to the atmosphere, and returning just a ton of information. Things that we're acutely aware of in Southern California are things like water resources. We study water resources from space. If you ever wonder how we know how much groundwater there is, like it's pretty easy to figure out how much water is in a reservoir, right? You could figure that out. But underground, how do we know that? How do we know how much is there? Well, there are some old-fashioned methods that were pretty good guesses, but we have some newfangled methods using satellites to figure this out. So a lot of our climate information is coming from spacecraft that are commanded by the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, just right here in your backyard. And then you've probably heard of the Hubble Space Telescope and the James Webb Space Telescope. We have had a part in both of those. So the image on the left is we call the Pillars of Creation. It's a nebula. It's where stars are born. And that image on the left was taken by the Hubble Space Telescope, oh goodness, a couple of decades ago. And the one on the right was taken just recently by the James Webb Space Telescope. And this kind of gives you an idea of how our imaging has improved. And it's not just that we use imaging to go capture cool things in space, we do, but then you and I benefit from this imagery, not just of the things that we see that's kind of cool, and we learn about it, but the imaging technology is then used here on Earth a lot of times in medicine. So, back in the day, all we had was X-rays. And now we have all sorts of different types of imaging that allow physicians to image inside of our bodies. And some of that, especially things that are thermal imaging, came from the space program. So it's what we call a spin-off. Anyway, so that's kind of what we do at JPL. And as I mentioned, what we do in the education office, in my group, very, very small group of people, there's 3 of us plus a web designer. Our job is to take what we do at JPL and do an overlap with what you have to teach in the classroom. So we are professional educators ourselves. I was a high school teacher for 11 years. I taught high school math. And one of my colleagues is a chemist. He taught high school chemistry. And another one of my colleagues is a former elementary school teacher. And so together, we try to find the overlap, and we always are considering next generation science standards, Common Core State standards for math. We don't really write anything if it doesn't align with what you have to teach, because why bother, right? So you as educators are our primary audience. We work with universities and pre-service educators. We work with students anytime we can, but there's only a handful of us. It's kind of hard to do that. We try to get resources out that are available for parents, and then we try to coach JPL employees for when they go out and talk in the public, how they can reach audiences a little better. We do all kinds of stuff. For you, this is the stuff you really care about. We do lessons. We do these things called Teachable Moments. I'll show you those in a minute. We do educator professional development, not just like I'm doing today, which is talking to you about all our cool stuff, but on a particular topic. So I believe after winter break, I will be back with LAUSD and doing a workshop that's on some climate stuff. And so that's part of what we do. Again, we try to get out to students as much as we can. It's tough. But we also go to like professional conferences like the California Science Educators Conference and National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, all those kind of things. So we also have some special initiatives. I'll talk about those later. And we do a bunch of like web stuff for kids. So there's a bunch of DIY projects. We have some educational videos, and we do some live streams as well. So I'll start with the lessons because these are my favorite thing. As a teacher, I was always trying to like figure out how do I take real world stuff and bring it into the classroom. And for the most part, I was having to figure that out on my own because nobody was out there doing it for me. And so when I got this gig with NASA, I was like, hey, we should write these lessons for these teachers so that, we don't ever expect you to like just take our lesson and like put it into the classroom and do it exactly as we write step by step, but at least it's a starting point, right? And so that's actually where we focus our time. We're actually over 180 lessons right now. And we try to use simple materials, if you will. Now pop over here to our website. show you what our lessons look like. So if you go onto our website, which is jpl.nasa.gov/edu/teach, you get this nice list of activities. I think it's like 9 or 10 per page. If you scroll down, you'll get additional pages, and we have a whole bunch of pages. Now, we have some pull down menus up here that are handy. I have to tell you though, if you search for something and you don't use the exact word, like you can see some of the words I've recently searched for here, but if you don't use the exact word that we used, it's kind of a dumb search, I have to tell you. It won't come up. And we are in the process of upgrading our website. And so in the future, we're going to have a smart search. And for now, I apologize. We have dumb search. But I'll show you like this here, this transpiration demo. You can get an idea just by looking at it, a little statement of what it is, what topic, what grade levels, and what subject within the topic. And so when you pop over to the activity, and on the far right, it's usually like we found that we did a user study, and we found that people were ignoring this square over here, this rectangle. And people said, oh yeah, that's where we expect to see ads. Well, we're the government, we don't usually have ads. So this is actually useful information for you. Tells you the type of activity, subject, type activity, grade levels, primary topic, additional topics that are addressed, how much time it takes to do this. We think this is how long it takes. And we test these in the classroom. We don't just like make stuff up and hope it works. And then the science standards or the math standards that are reached. In this case, we just have science standards. If you mouse over, it tells you if you don't have your NGSS codes memorized, it tells you what each of those is. And then these are the keywords that we've typed in. That's just how you can search for it. But it'll tell you materials, and management is tips and tricks for doing this in the classroom. Then the background, we try to write all the background you would need for teaching this lesson. And so again, we know what you have to teach in these grades 5 through 8. And so it's written for the average grades 5 through 8 teacher who is not necessarily an expert in science, but has some science knowledge perhaps. So we explain all the basics, and then we go down to procedures. And this is our suggestion of how to run the lesson. Please adapt, because you know your students best. And we give you some pictures along the way, and some suggestions. This particular one is on plant health, actually. So if you look at these two plants, they look like pretty healthy plants, right? And if I told you one of them was stressed, it'd be like, well, which one is it? It'd be kind of hard to tell. Well, the truth is we have this spacecraft called EcoStress that is orbiting Earth that can tell whether plants are water stressed or not, whether they have not had enough water, not getting the right nutrients. And it's using infrared sensors. Well, you can get an infrared sensor if you have money laying around, or you can just take our word for it. We used an infrared sensor on those two plants, and this is the difference. And this tells you the temperature of the plant. So these lighter colors are up toward the higher end, and these darker colors are toward the lower end, which tells you that the plant A on the left is experiencing heat stress. And the truth is we kind of didn't water it for a few days. And so it's this whole cool lesson about that. And the experiment that you run is on transpiration, which is how plants process water. So it's kind of a cool thing. Anyway, give you some ideas for assessment, some extensions, so on and so forth. That's how we run our teacher section. And we have lots and lots of stuff. We also have this section for students, and the students, we don't have as many activities because, like I mentioned, we're really focused on you folks. But during the pandemic, we heard from our educator who were in touch with us that they really needed a place to send their kids to do some learning on their own. And we knew that parents were like kind of desperate too, like, oh my gosh, my kids need to learn something. We need to do doing something, but I don't have time. I need to send them somewhere. What can we do? So we developed this section called Learn for Kids. And it's got all kinds of stuff. You can see it's kind of set up just like Teach. But this one, you can see there's some videos to start out here. And then there are a bunch of projects. There's some slideshows. If you've seen some of those James Webb Space Telescope images and you're like, I want to learn some stuff, like, I mean, they're cool, but what does it mean? Go take a look at that slideshow. But this project here is actually a good example of one of our kid projects. So I'll pop over to that. Some of our kid projects, as many as we possibly could get done, have an educator companion. So when you see this green thing, if you pop that, you will get the teacher version of this lesson. So this is the teacher version, tells you how to run the lesson in the classroom. But then you can go back to the student project, and this is what you this is where you send your kids. And so a lot of times we'll have a little tutorial video if we can get it done. We do a lot of pictures of the materials, and we tell them, here, step 1, think about ice. Step 2, make a prediction, set up your experiment, so on and so forth. And this particular one, we talk about sea level rise and melting ice, but where is the ice, and does it matter where the ice is? And is all ice contributing to sea level rise? Is it some of the ice if it melts? So this will lead them through that. It's kind of a fun thing, but that's how we kind of give you a companion piece for your students. And I mentioned Teachable Moments. This is in response to something we heard from educators, which is, my kids come in and, I've been like grading their papers last night. I wasn't trolling the internet or whatever. And kids come in the next day and they're like, hey, did you hear about this cool asteroid thing? And you're like, no, I was grading your papers. And so the kids have all these questions and you're like, I don't even know what they're talking about. I know I found myself in this position a lot. And then I would be like, I don't know, let me go look something up tonight. We'll come back and discuss it tomorrow. And, or, if you have time, you can discuss it in class right now. But we try to write things called Teachable Moments that addresses major things that are in the news. So something that is happening that kids might see in the news, and the Teachable Moment blog is written for you, the teacher. And here's an example. You might not have heard about this mission, but some folks did. And it's how we it's called the X-ray polarimeter mission, and it's combining X-rays and polarized glasses to look at the stars, look at nebula, look at our universe, basically. And so what we do is we basically go through several things: how we did it, how it works, and why it's important, or AKA why you care. And then some ideas on how to teach it if you are interested in telling your kids more and helping them explore more. So this kind of gives you the rundown of, it's like the summary. We go out and read all the technical papers, translate that into common language, put it in a blog so you can skim through this really fast, see what was in the news, get what was going on, how it works, because that's what your kids are going to want to know. We try to do these simple explainers, like this is how a polarimeter works. If you've never heard of a polarimeter, don't worry. I had not before either. And this is just a little GIF that we developed that explains how a polarimeter works. Then there's helpful videos, why it's important, and then lessons and such for how you can teach it in the classroom. So kind of fun stuff. We also do little educational videos for a variety of things, try to explain things. If you ever have to teach solar system size and distance, look up our solar system size and distance video. It's our top, most popular video. It's like 2 minutes long that explains solar system size and distance. It's meant to supplement whatever you're teaching in the classroom. And so we try to produce as many of those as we can. And you probably noticed I got these little QR codes on each slide, so you can just, like, if you want to go over there right now, you just hop that and go. I mentioned we do some live streams. In fact, we have one coming up in a couple of weeks, as a matter of fact. And so we get some of our JPL experts sometimes on the call with us to talk about a particular thing, whether it's the Mars rover, whether it's Earth science mission, whatever it happens to be. And we don't have live, like, meeting level students. We have your students off camera, so it's all private for them, but you can send in questions that your students might come up with. So we use this application called Mentimeter. And anyway, you can sign up for any of these things. We do once a month, we do educator workshops at JPL. If you feel like coming to JPL physically, we do those. And I'll show you how to sign up for that in just a second. Some of the things we do, like special initiatives. The middle one here, every year for Pi Day, March 14th, because I'm a math geek, we do the NASA Pi Day Challenge. This is for your older kids, so grades 7 through 12. We write these NASA math problems that are actually solved and used in NASA research. So it's a real problem that we do, and it uses pi in the answer. And we make this illustrated problem set. It's really beautiful. We make posters. You can hang them in your classroom. It's kind of cool stuff. So every day, Pi Day. If you're looking for Pi Day stuff, come to us. We've got the goods. When we landed on Mars, we came up with this thing called the Mission to Mars Student Challenge. We had like 1.2 million kids doing this, which was kind of cool. And it's still there. It's still evergreen. If you ever want to do a Mars themed unit, we've got you covered. And it's for all grades. We have 7 themed weeks. And for every week, we have at least 1, if not 5 or 10 lessons for every grade level that are on these different themes. And it's all about how you design a mission to Mars. And then on the right here, the learning space with NASA, this is a place for kids and parents to go. And we developed that site during the pandemic in response to parents going, help. So it's all kinds of videos and DIY projects that are in addition to the stuff I showed you earlier. I did mention the educator professional development earlier, so I won't spend too much time on this. We can come to you, or we can do it online, or you can come to us, all kinds of options. If you are not already on our email list, please hit this and sign up with us, because we're not going to spam you to death, right? We're just going to send you, we have a once a month newsletter. It's usually toward the end of the month. We just sent out our newsletter for October. And you can, if you hit this and go to sign up, it's for all of JPL news. You get to click off what kind of news you want. Well, you're an educator in Southern California, so make sure you hit educator and educator in Southern California, because that will give you all the stuff that's relevant to you. And with that, I'm going to stop and take some questions, because we're almost at the half hour. So Jerry or Jessica, do you have questions for me?
All right. So our first question that we have is, do you have any activities for preschool age students?
So not specifically, because as I mentioned, we do everything aligned with the next generation science standards and the Common Core standards for mathematics. So that's the K-12 realm. We do have a lot of preschool teachers who take some of our kindergarten stuff and scale it down. So we have heard that has been successful. So if you look for our kindergarten stuff, you can probably find some stuff that might be useful.
All right, thank you. And okay, we also have a question regarding, let's see. So do you have anything like a one pager that maybe has all of these different menu resources just on one sheet?
Yeah, we actually do. I can I can actually probably pull that up. Let me do that right now. I'll find it and I will share the
Okay.
QR code because it's yeah, that's a good point. I
And while
can
you're doing that, I think there's a person named Buck who is from Vintage NES team and wanted to say hi to you.
right on. Hey, good times. All right, here is our flyer. There's a QR code there that hopefully it comes through clear enough. You can catch
Could you
that.
maybe zoom in on there a little bit?
Ah, sure thing. Let's see.
There you go.
How's that? Is that clear enough?
Yeah, that worked for
Okay.
me.
Okay, cool. And
And
that
now,
basically that's the clickable version of this flyer that has all of the links on it.
oh, great. And we'll make sure that that's in our Schoology group, which I'll share with everyone in just a second.
Perfect. And while you're at it, let me share one other. I've actually got another flyer that is handy if you ever wanted to share a flyer of links with your students. There's this one, and it's just a whole bunch of stuff for, you can see it's different. It has some of our stuff on there, but it's all things for the general public and for kids. So I will zoom in on that one for you as well, because we get a lot of questions from parents and kids like, where can I find information on the International Space Station? It's like, well, check out this flyer.
And to go along with another question, on these sheets, do you have all the information to sign up for the live streams as well as the workshops that educators can actually go to JPL for?
Yeah, we sure do.
Okay, great.
And I'm going to pop it over here in the chat. Let's see if I can. Um, um, Actually, you guys would like it as a link. Let me go see if I can pull this as a link. Um, because we have an events page, and that's where you will find all of our um, workshops. And I'll go ahead and share. Let's see. This, if you go to that link that I pasted in the chat, you get this events calendar. And we have a campaign going on right now called You've Got Perseverance. So if you are a teacher of grades 6 through 12 and you've got a kid who is a kid who has persevered through something or another, you can nominate them to get a message from the Mars rover, which is kind of cool. If your kids are into Halloween, celebrate Halloween with us. That's just a bunch of pictures of how our engineers do Halloween pumpkins, which is kind of fun. But here you go. In November, we have the Educator workshop, which is happening on site at JPL. And it's called Exploring or Using Coding to Explore Mars. And if you click on that, it'll take you to a registration page. And that's in person. So we do have a limit of how many people can show up. So we're not full yet. So get your name in there if you want. It's on a Saturday. We do Saturdays just because we all know that it's tough to get subs. And then if you also wanted your kids to learn about how we use coding to explore Mars, this is an online thing. This is going to be over Zoom. It's going to be a webinar. And you can click over, and I'll just go ahead and take you to that one. It's also a register to attend because we don't make the link public. We want to make sure that it's schools that are signing up. So
And I think regarding the workshops that are at JPL, you mentioned you were going to give us a little bit of a tip as to how to secure a spot because I know right now it's probably fairly new that you recently restarted these, right? But I know in the
Right.
past they filled up really quickly.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. So this one is not full yet. We just opened it yesterday, and they usually fill in 24 hours. For some reason, this one is slower to fill, and we're not sure why. But yeah, the tip is get on our mailing list. We generally send the newsletter around 5 p.m. Pacific so that it's after school for everyone, because we don't want to send it in the middle of the day. You're teaching. And then, for some teacher who maybe isn't teaching at that moment and they get to sign up and you don't because you were working, that's not fair. So we try to send our newsletters in the afternoon. And it doesn't always happen that way, but we try so that everybody has a kind of an even chance. So pay attention to your email as the tip. And if you are thinking you might be interested, go ahead and sign up, because you can cancel your reservation if you don't. If you decide like in 2 days, oh shoot, I can't make it, you can cancel.
Right. And then I guess somebody was also asking regarding kind of your balance of uh, materials for elementary, for middle school, and high school. Is it
Yeah,
more towards middle school and high school, or is it do you have
no.
a balance of yeah?
Yeah, if we neglect anyone, it's the high schoolers. Sorry. Um, we have quite a bit of stuff for high school, but um, we have zeroed in. We started in grades 5 through 8, because we figure folks can either scale up or scale down from there if needed. And so we started developing there. We have most of our stuff there. But in recent years, we've gotten more stuff for high school and more stuff for early elementary. So right now, it's a bit of a bell curve. There's less stuff at the early elementary and at the 11th and 12th grade, but there's a whole lot in, say, grades 3 through 10.
Okay, great. And I think last one for today. I know we're past our time. Are there any opportunities for in-person tours for schools, I guess maybe like field trips?
Yeah, actually, it's not my office, but I'm gonna take you to where you can book a tour. So you can just type JPL tours into any kind of search engine. And the first hit is always JPL's free public tours. And so when you hit that, it'll take you over to our tour page. And you can imagine our tours are like really popular. This is taking a bit to load, but I tell you, our tours are so popular, you really have to be online when we release the next set. It's kind of like if you've ever tried to book Yosemite camping reservations and you have to be like online right now when they're going to open it for the season. But we're kind of like that. So the key here, you see this grayish blue box, it says next tours release date. We will be releasing tours for the month of January on Monday, November 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific. Now I realize that's a lousy time for teachers. Sorry. But find someone, if you wanted to get one of these tours in January, find someone who will be online with high-speed internet at 9 a.m. or 8:59 on November 7th. And if you're a teacher, you're going to take the educational group tour. You don't want to take any of the rest of these. You can actually do a virtual tour. We'll do it by Zoom. But if you want to physically come to JPL, tell the number of visitors, hit submit, and they'll tell you what's open. Now, if I tell you I'm going to take, I'm going to bring 38 kids, and I hit submit, right now it says, we're sorry, there are no tours available based on your search because we're full. So November 7th, 9 a.m., we're not going to be full, and it's going to pop up a calendar right here. and you need to be ready to grab something. We do tours physically in person twice a day, and they're 2 hours long. And grade 3 and above, by the way, because we're on a steep hill, and even third graders get tired on that hill.
All right, great. Thank you. A lot of great questions. And you know what? If I can actually, if you would stop sharing your screen, I'd like to share our Schoology group with everyone. And our Schoology group, we will put a copy of the recording of this session on here as well and also we'll be putting all of these other resources, and we'll share all of that on the Schoology group. Okay. So right here, Schoology group, it's a LA Unified STEAM P12 Schoology group, and there's the access code. And you can find a lot of resources here for STEAM lessons and units, as well as resources for the UN development goals, which we again use as a good foundation for the problem-based learning work that we do in our STEAM school. All right. Thank you, everyone, for spending this afternoon with us. Thank you, Dr. Lutz, for giving us this opportunity to hear about all these amazing resources. And, you know, again, NASA in the limelight these days. And, you know, we want to take this opportunity to really encourage our students to explore, explore this world. All right. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.